Hello, welcome to today's broadcast. I'm Javina. We're going to be talking about framing. When you negate the frame, you evoke the frame, how to avoid it, how to celebrate it when Trumpists make that mistake themselves. We're going to talk about J.D. Vance being booed by firefighters in Boston, a fairly traditionally white stronghold of Republican support, in a stereotypical sense, not in a blanket sense. And what else are we going to talk about? Oh, the Arlington Cemetery violation of federal law with Trump officials striking, physically assaulting and verbally assaulting a Arlington Cemetery official who tried to enforce the law that you cannot take a outside photographer for campaign purposes into Section 60, the section of the Arlington Cemetery for those who have died during America's more recent wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. And that's a purposeful rule. So photographs taken by photographers at Arlington Cemetery that are not being used for campaign purposes, they don't violate that law, and they don't have officials standing and saying, don't bring your campaign photographers into this section. But the Trump campaign was warned. A likely culprit is Corey Lewandowski, because that dude has a history of not only extramarital affairs, but also violent behavior towards women, female journalists, and other journalists, as well as being the person who notably said womp womp when being told on live TV that the Trump policy of separating children from their caregivers and parents when he was in office had resulted in the separation of a girl with developmental disabilities, possibly trisomy 31, possibly Down syndrome, from her caregivers, and that she was distressed. Corey Lewandowski was the fellow whose face you saw saying womp womp. Very illustrative of the Trump campaign use of norm breaking, decency standard breaking in order to empower those who support him, in order to make them feel like rules don't apply to them. And Trump has tried to use this rule violation and this incident, in which his officials originally said they had video proof of what happened, and they questioned the mental health of the Arlington Cemetery, a female official who told them, no, you can't bring a campaign photographer into this section of the cemetery. He tried to use it to resurrect a turning point in Joe Biden's political favorability stakes, which is that the electorate's honeymoon period with President Biden as the new president took a turn for the worse when the rollout of American withdrawal from Afghanistan came to pass. And what is incredibly underreported is Trump's role in that withdrawal, in that Trump invited Taliban leaders to Camp David, to literally sacred American ground, on the anniversary of 9/11 to negotiate in a way that cut out members of the Afghanistani government, the government that America has spilt a significant amount of blood and billions of dollars in trying to lift up and help make a more of a democratic stronghold institution in that country. So Trump negotiated with the Taliban, and what was the consequence of those negotiations? That they wrote up a deal that they then compelled the Afghanistani government to adhere to release 5,000 Afghanistani Taliban fighters. One of those fighters is now the Taliban leader of Afghanistan. Trump willfully and purposefully helped sabotage the American pullout because he was trying to set a mine for anybody succeeding him in office, so that he could then hope to re-win office using potential American service member deaths to point to. So that is why Trump's campaign was so intent on violating federal law. I don't believe there are any legal consequences necessarily for violating that law. It's just a moral and ethical violation that should draw considerable opprobrium from the press and from American society. look, the American people will have the waters muddied in an attempt to conceal Trump's willful disregard of the law, willful disregard of the standards, as well as the federal law saying no campaign photographers to be brought into that section. The gravestone of a soldier who had taken their own life after multiple tours in, was it Iraq or Afghanistan? But a soldier who took their own life and whose gravestone was shown in the background of the Trump campaign video that was subsequently released onto his TikTok account. Before they realized that this story was going to kick off more in the media, that people's outrage wouldn't immediately die down, and that the media would feel compelled to run with this narrative that was building up a life of its own on social media and in people's hearts and minds. So I'm going to bring up on screen the story of McMaster recently admitting that Trump helped botch that withdrawal from Afghanistan. Because, of course, that dude has waited till now to, it's taken him 4 years or whatever to write his book. He's complicit in having facilitated Trump's fascist behavior in office, but he still probably salves his conscience by noting to himself that he didn't let Trump get away with everything he wanted. I mean, we knew Trump wanted to use American troops against American citizens who are protesting. He already violated the First Amendment by violently clearing away nonviolent protesters in order for him to have a campaign walk through a cleared Lafayette Park and hold up a Bible outside a church from which the priests had been violently removed through use of tear gas and literal batons and riot shields being deployed by people in riot gear. I say people because I'm trying to remember, were they National Guard? I think they were the military, but I'm going to I'm going to share screens right now with the story of General McMaster. Okay, General McMaster bears some responsibility. Let's see, for chaotic Afghanistan withdrawal. Let's see if I've shared that on the screen. Yes. DJ Vance can go to hell. That's a cute name for JD Vance. Did I write JD Vance? I read the right one, but yes. Although DJ Vance kind of impugns DJs unfairly, so I won't keep that up for long, but here we go. Thank you, Maverick, for your cute contribution. So why does General McMaster say that Trump bears some responsibility for chaotic JD Vance withdrawal? Let's have a look. This was published on Monday, August the 26th, should have more traction in the media, but as a function of Republican ref-working with regards to the media and also Republican-leaning media moguls who prefer a reduced tax burden under Trump policies that reduce tax for the uber wealthy and often expand and complicate taxes for the middle class and working class, with any middle class tax breaks having a time limit on them. So any Democrats that get into office then have to deal with that kind of mess. Trump's economic record is very bad, and I'm glad it's getting some more traction in the media, but it needs more still. The good news is voters 18 to 34, big swing in enthusiasm. Swing in that younger voters tend to lean more progressive anyway, because one time in people's lives where they're more seduced by Republican efforts to claim a false mantle of economic responsibility, people are more likely to fall for that in the age bracket where they earn the most in their lives, between 45 and 64. So once people have been through that age gap, the residue of Republican loyalty can stick with them and make them watch Republican-themed media outlets, which can withhold truthful information from them, truthful information such as Republican presidents have presided over 10 out of the last 11 recessions. Republicans are consistently associated with low job creation numbers relative to job creation numbers under Democratic presidents. And it's just a matter of economic ideology, actually. The Democrats are more likely to invest in the American people and the American workers, which helps people consume and spend more when they have more disposable income. Whereas Republicans, their loyalty lies more with the people who support their campaign efforts. They're more likely to act in a way aligned with lobbyists for the ultra wealthy, those in corporate environments who gouge prices, who create monopolies to disadvantage consumers and try to not only deregulate industry, but also oppose unions, oppose workers using their collective bargaining power to advocate for good working conditions and good pay scales and just the kind of lives where you can have a work-life balance and room to grow and prosper. So that even if you don't start at the top rung of an economic ladder, you can pursue education. You can have some downtime that allows you to help your children with their homework and help them get ahead in life, and help yourself get ahead in life with taking on courses and extracurricular activities in your own life that enrich not only your life, but the earning capacity of yourself and your family. So that's just two different groups of alliances that once you think about that, it makes sense why Democratic presidents are associated with much better economic outcomes on every element of the scale. Economists often go, why is this so? But, you can find people speculating about it. And John Maynard Keynes is the economist associated with that idea of invest in people. If there's an economic downturn, invest in infrastructure and people, because it will generate more consumer confidence. It will help shore up that bubble that the economy rests on, because bubbles can be fragile, and government is an institution that often stands between people and the depredations of individuals who become so focused on profit generation that they exclude criteria such as people, the collective well-being of the society that has housed them, that has allowed them to grow into powerful corporations. So that's just a function of human psychology. People can get so goal-focused that they forget to take care of things. In much the same way, if you've known anybody with an eating disorder who gets obsessed with the pursuit of thinness at the expense of their own personal health, they can be in danger of dying, but the goal has consumed their activities and their thinking. In the same way, antisocial profiteers at the corporate level can be so obsessed with generating profit that they can start spending money in a political sphere to help them further expand their profits, even if it costs the lives and well-being of those in other income brackets who they no longer see as people, but who have become essentially numbers in columns of potential profit or loss. So we've got up on screen this article you can Google for yourself of General McMaster. So he's a retired Lieutenant General H.R. McMaster who served as National Security Advisor under former President Donald Trump, said Monday his one-time boss bears some responsibility for the US's chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan in 2021. McMaster's told CNN's Anderson Cooper that the former president had made a decision in 2017 to maintain a US presence in Afghanistan, but that Trump then changed his mind. Maybe he changed his mind as he lost confidence that he could win a second term and determined that he would set up a potential landmine with the ability to defuse it himself if he got a second term in office, or to just leave it there if somebody like Joe Biden, who he understood as being a potent threat to his ability to stay in office, because he was someone who had a presence for 8 years in the White House as Vice VP under President Barack Obama. So Trump knew that even though he had such a strong profile as a reality TV show host for many years, and that powerful association with prosperity, even though it was largely fabricated, Trump was actually a very failed businessman who ran a scam of Trump University that he later settled for $25 million once he got into office. He ran Trump Vodka, Trump Airlines, Trump Casinos into the ground, declared bankruptcy 6 times, but the impression was left in the minds of people, the kind of people who take reality TV as truthful, which is, to be fair, a lot of people. A lot of people don't do background research or don't personally know one of the many, many contractors that Trump stiffed out of payment for work all his life, because that was one strategy he had for trying to keep his businesses profitable, was hire undocumented workers and hire businesses that he would then dispute the payment using his then lawyer, attack dog Michael Cohen, who would say, do you want to go to court? Because we'll offer to pay you 10 cents in every dollar for what we originally contracted to pay you. But if you want more than that, take us to court. Have you got good enough lawyers to defeat Donald Trump's army of, attack dog type Michael Cohen lawyers? And Trump knew that those type of threats will often dissuade people who don't have the energy or the time or the money to pursue fair payment in court. And Trump ruined many small businesses or put them into significant debt and made their lives difficult. Because as a small contractor, you'll know if you don't get paid for work that you do, for materials that you've bought to do work on someone's property, you don't get paid, that's going to throw your whole balance book out and you will struggle. You'll get into trouble yourself for not paying your creditors, and you can potentially go bankrupt yourself. And there were hundreds of people that spoke to the media prior to Trump's election in 2016. Did it take off? Not to the extent that it should have, because of that, not immovable, but the pervasiveness, the stickiness of that reality TV show impression that linked Trump to the American dream, to affluence, to success. And Trump knows that the skill sets that he does have tend to be in the realm of marketing and self-promotion rather than in terms of actual business success. So I hope that's been a good starting point to encourage people to go and read that article for themselves. Asked by Cooper if Trump bears some responsibility for the heavily criticized withdrawal during the Biden administration, Master responded, oh yes. So that's why Trump went to the wreath-laying ceremony at Arlington National Cemetery in Virginia on the third anniversary of the attack at Kabul airport's Abbey Gate that killed 13 military service members. He did so because he's trying to make the talking point, the dust up or whatever. He doesn't want the talking points to be the true story of how Trump is culpable to a significant extent for what happened at Kabul's airport, because he's in part responsible for the Afghanistani government falling so quickly and making the withdrawal efforts so untenable and more difficult to prevent things like the suicide bomber that struck at Abbey Gate at Kabul airport, because he withdrew American troops, leaving only 3,500 US service members in Afghanistan by the time he left office, making it a reduced force that was harder to maintain security, harder to maintain intelligence, harder to pick up rumors of what was going to happen. And McMaster also wrote about his perception that Trump often sought the praise and approval of strongmen foreign leaders like Russian President Vladimir Putin and the Philippines' former President Rodrigo Duterte, so that he could be seen as a similarly strong leader. The dude is a puffed up ball of marketing nonsense. So to men with divorced dad energy, yes, Trump's the daddy figure whose approval they want, whose ship they're trying to hitch, whose wagon they're trying to hitch their fortunes to, because he breaks things, he breaks standards, he breaks laws, he violates consent rules around sexual activity with women. He confessed to grabbing women by the genitals, and that confession, when heard on the Access Hollywood tapes, merely strengthened some people's resolve to vote for him, because those people are so resentful of modernity. They're so resentful of things that have taken the American economy away from a more of an exploitative slave economy. They want a restoration. They are nostalgic for the Old South and other industries, and the Old North's complicity in perpetuating a slave dynamic in which some humans could be exploited for profit, and you could build up an enormous wealth and that you could pass on to your children and have intergenerational levels of extraordinary wealth, because you didn't have the morals to recognize that that was a bad thing. So thanks to those who've listened and tuned into this broadcast today. J.D. Vance was booed by the firefighters. Why is that? I'm going to guess it's for some of the same reasons that Trump was booed at a baseball game shortly before he lost the election in 2020. It was a sign of him losing that thing that's so important to him, which is the perception of dominance. That's why he's posting to Truth Social as fast as his fat little fingers can type, not to body shame his fingers, not to body shame Trump, but throwaway joke there, forgive me. Trump is typing, oh, it's all a mirage, it's all a ruse. Kamala doesn't have this incredible momentum that's making her more popular than Joe Biden. It's trickery, it's manufactured, it's AI, and I'm the dominant one, because he knows that part of his appeal is the dominance itself. It's not his policies, it's the claim to make liberals cry and women cry and have to say, oh, no, don't grab me. I don't consent to that. The idea of women being strong and empowered and able to say no, violating that is part of the appeal of Trumpism. People say they like his economic policies, don't know shit about his economic policies or economic policies in general, or they would know that tariffs, the kind that Trump introduced when he was in office, are terrible for the economy, jack up inflation, derail the manufacturing sector and adjacent sectors such as transport and storage. They're terrible for the economy. Part of a pattern, look it up. Relative performance of Republican presidents versus Democratic presidents. You'll possibly be shocked at what you find. The results are reported from a variety of sources, but the end results are just a factor of a simple logic that is underreported in American media and society, and that is investing in people, investing in American communities is a key to success. Overindulging of hyper-individualism, the kind that says, I need all the guns I can stuff in my pants, that's actually been a detriment to the freedom of everybody else. It's the freedom of your freedom to swing your fist should end at a respectable distance from my face. And that definition of freedom has been disrespected and violated by successive Republican presidents and Republican politicians. Kamala Harris, Vice President Kamala Harris, is restoring that claim to freedom that should be the birthright of American citizens and American residents. I'm a resident here. My accent belies it, but I'm an Australian living in the United States. I want safety for my children, this community, more broadly speaking, people in America, and I want economic freedom, freedom to thrive and prosper for everybody. I don't believe it's a zero-sum game. If some people get more, then other people are compelled to get less. That's not how it works. Talk to you again soon. Thanks for tuning in. Take care and bye-bye. My name's Davina. I'm on Twitter as davcat43. That's my home, even though it's got a little complicit fascist mega mogul who bought the platform for $44 billion in order to help Trump gain office and then maybe get a pardon for being convicted of any security fraud crimes. I'm talking about Elon Musk, that little criminal, that little fraud. He's also very allied with Trump in terms of having massive promotion, self-promotion and marketing skills that make him an asset to some of his businesses. But look, he's stripped so much value from Twitter. It's affected the value of his other companies, Tesla. I think SpaceX had an aborted launch the other day and all subsequent launches have been paused. Starlink's all right. He started off helping the Ukrainian population and then he's, anyway, I got to go get someone. You suck, Elon Musk. Sell Twitter. Anyway, he's not going to sell Twitter. He's trying to use it to help Trump win. And given the context of the Electoral College, it just makes it more important that we not wring our hands, that we do the work, that we have the hard conversations, that we inform each other, that we spread the joy as well. The joy associated with not having to lie about there being an immigrant invasion. Immigrants have helped the United States have relatively low inflation to the rest of the world, have a relatively high GDP to the rest of the world, and in fact have a level of economic activity that is lifting other countries. And that's what the world's most knowledgeable economists have said and continue to say. Thanks for your time.